There is a theory, whispered only in the quiet corners of esoteric discussions and dismissed by mainstream thinkers as either delusional or dystopian, that suggests believing in extraterrestrial beings may not be as innocent as we think. While curiosity about alien life is often seen as a sign of open-mindedness or scientific wonder, this theory implies that such belief, especially when deeply emotional or obsessive, might actually serve as a gateway, not to truth, but to vulnerability. According to this forbidden notion, our attention functions as an energetic key. And every time we consciously fixate on extraterrestrials, whether through fascination, awe, longing, or even fear, we are, in effect, inviting a synchronization process between our mind and theirs. The more we think about them, the more they become capable of thinking through us. It is no secret in neuroscience and ancient metaphysical systems that attention is not neutral. In fact, the very act of sustained focus is what tunes our brainwaves to external stimuli. This phenomenon, often referred to as neural entrainment, explains how our consciousness can harmonize with rhythmic light, sound, and even the emotional states of others. But if this law holds true on Earth, then it must also apply beyond Earth, across dimensions, frequencies, and intelligences we have yet to comprehend. When a human mind continuously returns to thoughts of non-human entities, especially when those thoughts are charged with belief or reverence, it begins to shift, almost imperceptibly, toward the frequency of those entities. In this state, we don't need to be forced, abducted, or overridden. We voluntarily tune ourselves to a different stream of intelligence, and that is where the door opens. Many experiencers, especially those who have had recurring dreams, synchronicities, or encounters with what they describe as other intelligences, often report that it began not with contact, but with thought. It started with mental curiosity, then moved into dreams, and eventually bled into daily life in ways that were difficult to explain. Some even speak of changes in personality, intuition, or behavior that felt foreign, like certain thoughts no longer originated from within. This isn't necessarily a Hollywood-style possession. It's far more subtle than that. Imagine influence that doesn't feel invasive, but instead wears the costume of your own inner voice. You hear the thought, you feel the impulse, you act on the instinct, yet somewhere inside, something whispers, this isn't entirely me. And perhaps, it isn't. The unsettling idea here is that this influence doesn't come through brute force or invasive technology, but through consent we don't realize we're giving. Just as a computer becomes vulnerable the moment it connects to an unsecured network, our consciousness may become accessible the moment it locks focus on an entity with stronger psychic or dimensional reach. That focus becomes a signal, a kind of broadcast that says, I'm here, and I'm open. And something, somewhere, hears that call. Of course, not all intelligences beyond Earth are hostile. Some may be curious observers. Others may be benign, or even beneficial. But the theory warns us of one critical distinction: not all contact is connection. And not all influence is mentorship. Sometimes, what appears to be enlightenment is simply subtle manipulation, wrapped in symbolic language or emotional resonance we're too eager to accept without discernment. This doesn't mean that one should stop exploring the topic of extraterrestrial life. The danger does not lie in investigation, nor in healthy skepticism. Rather, it arises when belief becomes uncritical devotion, when the search for truth turns into subconscious worship. When we elevate alien intelligence to godlike status and begin to trust that they hold all answers, all guidance, and all authority, we essentially hand over the steering wheel of our perception. And here lies the true concern: control, when disguised as curiosity, is rarely recognized until it is too late. The most effective influence is not one that announces itself loudly, but one that whispers in your own voice, offers you thoughts that feel natural, and shifts your decisions just slightly enough that you believe they're still yours. In this view, consciousness becomes sacred territory, a sovereign domain that must be protected just as diligently as any physical space. We install security systems for our homes, encrypt our data, and guard our passwords. But how often do we consider safeguarding our mental field? And more importantly, how many of us know when we've already left the door open? It is not the existence of aliens that poses a threat, it is our unexamined relationship with the idea of them. When belief crosses a threshold and becomes alignment, it no longer simply observes the alien. It allows the alien to observe us, from within. Therefore, the question is no longer whether you believe in extraterrestrials. The real question is this. When you think of them, are you still thinking on your own? Or have your thoughts begun to echo something that doesn't originate from you? This is not a call to fear. It is a call to discernment. For the greatest form of possession is not physical, it is the quiet and invisible surrender of mental sovereignty, disguised as curiosity, trust, or even hope. And perhaps, the most dangerous illusion is not that aliens might exist, but that an open mind is always safe.